5th.
Oh, it was February 5th. Scrivener's error.
Yeah, it was Monday.
Yeah,
Somebody had a
Scrivener's
birthday
error.
on the 7th.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Concord Township Board of Trustees meeting for February 21st, 2024. And would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moving into the roll call, please.
Yes, Mrs. Lucci,
Present.
Mr. McIntosh,
Present.
Mr. Dondorfer.
Present. Moving on to the approval of minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes as written for the February 5th, 2024 regular trustee meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes from the February 20th, 2024 special meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to the elected officials reports and starting off with our fiscal officer, Mr. James Technip.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer. First of all, I wanted to thank the chiefs, department heads, and Mr. Rose for their assistance in providing information and data that was needed to prepare the 2024 appropriations ordinance or resolution. And with their help, we were able to reduce the appropriations by about $37,000 when you compare it to the 2023 annual appropriation. So you can see it's a very lean year. It's unusual that that happens, but we were able to successfully do that. And with their help, I wanted to, we finalized the draft, and we have a 2024 annual appropriations, which is on tonight's agenda. And we had our work session on the agenda, on the appropriations yesterday. And I think with the discussion with the department heads and the chiefs and Andy over the last few months, and even a new fiscal officer coming in, it culminated into a very productive session yesterday. I thought it was one of the more productive ones I was a part of in the past year, and a lot of discussion came out of it. So I'm asking the trustees to approve the 2024 appropriations, which is resolution 2024-06 at tonight's meeting. So thanks again for all the help by everybody. I think it was a great team effort.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.
Moving on to the trustees' reports, Mrs. Lucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's safe to say we've all had discussions with residents this week regarding the levy failure, law enforcement cuts that was kind of posted in the grapevine, whether by phone, in person,
Right.
or by social media. And I think there's a couple of themes I just wanted to touch on. The first one is, it seems to me that a lot of people don't understand their tax bill. They think that they have these high taxes, which we understand, we live here too, we pay those taxes too, that they're going up, but they think that all their tax money is going to Concord Township. And we get 17, 18%?
17%.
If you look at your tax bill, you'll see where those allocations are going. Most of that does go to the schools, other entities, but understanding your tax bill is the first thing I think people need to understand when looking at additional asks for money for law enforcement or safety services. The other thing is, I think people don't understand our budget. We had our budget appropriations workshop yesterday, which I agree went very well. There were no residents there. We hear that our budget is inflated in certain areas, that maybe we have money stashed away that we could be paying extra law enforcement or fire operations, and it simply is not the case. We went over line by line, expenditures and revenues, to show where our deficits are and why we had to make cuts. And I appreciate everyone doing a great job with that and being fiscally responsible to balance the budget. The other thing is, I think people think that we're using a scare tactic by cutting the number of deputies, which we did. We had to go down to 6 from 9. And while it is scary, we can only pay for what we have in the budget. Mr. Dondorfer has stated in his experience and recommendations that 6 is probably not enough deputies to have with 20,000 residents in 23 square miles. He gave us an understanding of why 6 deputies means only 1 on patrol, because it's a 24-hour, 7-day a week. So that does limit the amount of safety patrol in our area. I've had residents who are nervous now with cuts. They're worried that EMS may not get to them in time, or that fire may not get to them in time. We're trying to look at ways to increase revenues, but we have a fixed budget. There's nothing else in there that we can do to support our fire operations, our law enforcement going forward, which is why we're most likely going to ask for more money at the end of the year from the voters. Mr. McIntosh has been working very hard to try to look at ways in the county that Concord can benefit for some more revenue, but it's not there yet. But please understand, it's not a scare tactic. It is scary. We all live in this township. We all prioritize safety, and we want to make sure that we're a thriving community, and we continue to be so with the correct amount of law enforcement and fire operations and fire personnel. We ask that people, when you have questions, go see Andy tomorrow at the Coffee with the Administrator.
9
Here
o'clock.
he brings great donuts. We give out our cell phone numbers. We ask people to come to our meetings to visit us in office hours. So having the information on social media is misleading and leads to poor decision making. So we do appreciate people reaching out to us, asking the questions. I did have a nice conversation with Janet the other day. It was wonderful. And we want to work together and collaborate on what is best for this township. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lucci. Mr. McIntosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to just jump right in and sort of piggyback on the comments from Mrs. Lucci. Yes, we've been inundated with a lot of questions. We've been getting phone calls or emails about it since the News Herald reported on it back in January. And then the grapevine came out and we got a lot of response. I also emailed back and forth with Janet as well, offering as much explanation. I think there are a lot of things about how taxing, tax bills, property taxes work that people don't understand. I did write back to Janet that, hey, only 17% of that tax bill is what we work with. The rest of it's other things, and she was surprised by that. I think the appraised and assessed value are two things that are confusing. Replacement levies, the kinds of levies are confusing. So I think I know Mr. Rose is preparing information, whether people can make the Coffee with the Administrator or not. Town Hall is prepared. We have that ability. Any trustee is willing to dialogue with people. And I think we've had some favorable communication with folks by the phone or emails. It's unfortunate, but it's just what you expect anymore with social media, that it sort of seems that we have the guilty before proven guilty moniker slapped across us, that we again have a slush fund or have money available. The appropriations workshop in my now 5th year as a trustee, that was the most painful one we've ever been in. I do want to thank Jim for a lot of hard work. He came in a year ago and did a lot of heavy lifting and is continuing to do that. And I know that he and John Patriarch and the incoming fiscal officer have worked really well together. It was one of the best meetings in local government I've had. Jim is correct that it's been a good team. It's really nice to see Jim and John working together to get ready for this transition, work together, sharing ideas. The department heads have everyone together yesterday to talk about this, so that every department head in Concord understands the situation that we're in, because we don't have room. We certainly have empathy and concern with residents that are looking at that property tax bill, and it's a problem. We do, but we're in the same boat. We're all having the same problem as far as trying to make things work on a budget. The Concord safety budget's 8 years old. We know what costs have done the last couple of years. We're not making any of this up, and it's really frustrating when people sort of accuse you, provide the facts, and they just continue to question and deny the reality of what you present. We're here, phone numbers 24/7, constantly available. We'd love to see more people in our meetings and watching us on social media to understand what's going on and get the story straight. I did want to make one point, also to staffing, like we can't deficit spend. A lot of the comments come at me, and I see folks, in the political debates, and we're not the federal government. It's not. We legally can't do that, and our backs are up against a wall. So we're not trying to scare people. We're trying to be transparent, open, as the sport has always been. And I'm proud to be part of this board. So moving on to something a little more exciting, I want to express the amount of pride that I have in Amy Lucci for being elected as a director to the Ohio Township Board of
Congratulations, yes.
Directors. Yes. It was pointed out at the LCETA meeting last week that this is the first time since the early 80s that a Lake County Township trustee has sat on that board. Amy got the third highest votes in the first round for 8 seats, and the only people that beat her out were 2 incumbents that had been around before. So she was the top new vote getter. A lot of excitement from board members and members at OTA. So we need to be proud of that representation, and that is all part of the good work that all 3 of us do.
Outstanding.
I did take some phone calls about traffic lights and more safety concerns, noise complaints. And as Ms. Lucci mentioned, I continue to work on that ad hoc committee for the local government fund. I'm proud to be a part of that group too. That is representation from councils, villages, and this group is bending over backwards to help each other out through a transition that could be very damaging to some communities' budgets, but be ultimately helpful to Concord. And I hope that's something that we get to report on soon, that we'll be delivering something that's a bit of a assistance to this community and our taxpayers here. But early to speculate. Don't want to talk details, but hope that we keep going in that direction. And I think with that, it covers my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McIntosh. Yeah, I would just like to add briefly in regards to, the safety issue in Concord Township. This board has always prioritized safety services. It's important to the health and vitality of any community. We're not immune to some of the problems that Concord's experiencing. Other government entities or villages or cities or municipalities are experiencing the same thing. I definitely will tell our residents that, when we have discussion on this or information that was posted in the grapevine regarding the safety services dialogue is not done to scare our residents by any means. It's done to be transparent and keep them informed so that they can understand where we are as a community in regards to a certain issue. And this issue is safety services. And again, nobody could have forecasted in 16 when the safety levy was passed that we would be experiencing what we are now. I mean, we're looking at over 18% increase in salaries and benefits for sheriff's office personnel. That's a result of trying to bring up the salaries to a median level that is capable of being online with other jurisdictions, so you don't lose staffing. So we couldn't predict that. And operations has also increased. The cost of equipment, vehicles have gone up 20%. I mean, the last time I purchased a police vehicle 2 years ago at a state bid price, it was $37,000, and now they're going for over 50. So everything's, there's just the increased cost, and that cost is a pass-through cost to the township. The county is not going to pick that up. And it's worth saying, maybe to go over again, but you did say there was some questions that we received regarding, if we're paying for 6 deputies, well, then why do we only have 1 on patrol? And to put it into perspective, I'll try to, I think I've mentioned it before, but the easiest way to explain it is, most agencies, including the sheriff's department, are on 12-hour shifts. So you have a 7A to 7P and a 7P to 7A. It's 24 hours. Police services, 24 hours. They're on 24/7. You call, we expect them to come. So what happens is you have an A shift on day shift, and when those guys are working, when that guy's working, the B shift guy is off. And when the A shift guy is on his days off, the B shift, which is the second guy, is on duty. and that applies to the night shift. So you have an A shift, day shift deputy. You have a shift, night shift deputy. That's 2 deputies. Then you have a B shift, day shift deputy, and a B shift, night shift deputy. That's 4 deputies. And the 5th one is the rover guy who you use when that deputy's on paid time off or is sick or is training. You have that body that you could pull in so you have adequate staffing. So it takes 5 full-time officers to get 1 deputy 24/7, 365 days a year. That's why the plan has always been for Concord, or the bigger townships, Concord and Painesville, to pay for 10 deputies, because it would ensure 2 deputies on patrol 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And those 2 deputies that were contracted and paid for by the township would be supplemented by the county funded deputies. So we could see anywhere from 2 to 4 or maybe even 5 officers in Concord, which is adequate staffing for us, a community of almost 20,000 residents. With that, we understand we pay taxes here too. We don't like to raise taxes. Morgan and I have gone to the county to discuss our case with the county on the need to increase the county funded deputies from 12, which was agreed upon in 2008, and it hasn't changed, to hopefully 16. So we're looking at other avenues to increase the law enforcement presence in Concord Township with our partners, i.e. the county. But at the same time, these pass-through cuts, we could have never predicted that we would have to be paying an additional 18% over 3 years and paying 20% more on equipment so that the operations can be satisfied on a day-to-day basis. So hopefully that explains a little bit more, because there's some questions that we had about stay within your budget. Again, these pass-through costs, so that the county can stay competitive and maintain the officers that we have, so they're not leaving for another jurisdiction because there's no new blood coming in the profession. So it's a dynamic problem, and we hope that we can. Our plan is to reach out and engage our residents so we can work together to try to come to an agreement or some recommendation on how to get back to where we need to be, because it's just, again, we're not trying to scare you, we're trying to keep you informed. 1 deputy is not adequate 24 hours a day in a community the size of Concord Township, because when that guy's tied up on an accident for 2 or 3 hours or an arrest, we're at the whim of requesting mutual aid or getting help from the county. So we're going to work with the community and hope to, again, we're always accessible. If you have any questions, please reach out to us. Other than that, I did have a couple phone calls, helping a resident out with a noise issue and a new development. And then we had a zoning question regarding an agricultural use permit on some property as far as logging and things like that. I worked with a resident over on Morley Road. We're working through that. And other than that, yes, congratulations on your
Thank you.
election to the director
Looking forward to
position.
it.
You've done a lot for the township, and you will be good for the OTA. So moving on to department reports, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. Dondorfer, members of the board, Mr. Technip, good evening. I'll start with a few of the items that are on the agenda. Item B is Resolution 2024 Tax 05. That renews the cleaning contract with JAT Enterprises. In discussions with them, this is a 2-year renewal and there is no increase in the cost. So they were able to hold our prices flat for the next 2 years, which is great news, and we appreciate that. Mr. Technip already covered the permanent appropriations resolution, which is item C. Item D is a limited home rule resolution. That's 2024 Tax 07. This is the resolution that actually amends the current police services contract that we have in place. This will take that we have in place with the commissioners and the sheriff's office. This amendment that you're voting on is what will actually reduce our deputies to 6 starting next month. And I encourage passage of this, and then it will go to the commissioners tomorrow for their meeting a week from tomorrow. Item H is of particular note. That is a vote for a purchase order to North Coast Memorials for the purchase of 3 new columbariums for our cemetery. The columbariums that we currently have in our cemetery are sold out. And they're very popular for folks to, have their cremains interred there. And so we've selected a new spot for 3 new columbariums. And the cemetery sexton went out and got 4 quotes, and North Coast was the best quote, so we appreciate that. And I would encourage a favorable vote on that. At the risk of sending the horse to the glue factory, I just want to touch on the 2024 appropriations. I've been in local government service for 20 years. Having a budget that's presented that is smaller than the previous year is an extremely rare event. And I want to thank the fiscal officer, the department heads. I mean, everybody sharpened the pencil. Everybody knows the status we're in. There's no pot of gold at the end of Rainbow Drive. There's no slush fund or anything like that. And so we went down, and as Mr. McIntosh stated, there's no deficit spending. There's no magic credit card. We're not the federal government. So, inflation's still up. We negotiated very, very favorable renewal terms for our health insurance. Cindy Sadler did a great job working that. We were 8% below the statewide average on increases. So we literally looked at everything. The cleaning services contract held flat, all, going out and getting extra bids on the columbariums. I mean, we're turning over every rock and working hard to drive those costs down. So I just want to comment on that. It's a lot of good work went into this budget. The only other thing I have is, as Mrs. Lucci mentioned, tomorrow morning will be the second in a series of the monthly gatherings. It's time for coffee with the administrator. Residents can come and discuss anything township related. I look forward to great conversations. We had great conversations last month. We have 14 people. I'm hoping to get that many or maybe better. It ran just almost 2 hours last time, and I'm hoping for the same. So coffee with the administrators at the community center on Auburn Road, and it starts at 9 o'clock, and it goes until folks are done chatting.
Great. I'm going to join you tomorrow morning.
All right. I
9
look forward to it.
o'clock.
I'll bring what kind of donut you want?
I knew you were going to ask that. It's a police thing, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I thought you didn't eat donuts.
Thanks.
Anyhow, that concludes my report, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose.
Sure.
Moving on to the audience portion. We have nobody here this evening.
No audience.
Going into old business, seeing that we have none, we will move into the new business for the evening.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the January financial report.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Resolution 2024-05 contract with JAT Enterprises Incorporated for cleaning services.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 2024-06 permanent appropriations.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Chair, I, Mr. McIntosh, move to suspend the rules for Resolution 2024-07 to consider the resolution on the first reading.
I'll second.
All in favor?
No,
Roll call.
you need a roll
Roll
call
call
vote on that.
vote,
I'm
yes.
sorry.
Yep.
Mrs. Lucci,
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Dondorf.
Yes.
And Mr. Chairman, I move to approve Resolution 2024-07, amendment to contract for police protection among the Lake County Board of Commissioners, the Lake County Sheriff, and the Concord Township Trustees declaring an emergency and dispensing with the second reading.
And I second.
All in favor, roll call.
Mrs. Lucci,
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh,
Yes.
Mr. Dondorf.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Fire Department conditional offer of part-time regular firefighter medic Austin Hedgick McFarland effective 2/22/24 pending background check and physical.
Now second.
All in favor?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, I move vote Fire Department approve conditional offer of part-time regular firefighter paramedic Jake Niehaus, effective 2/22/24, pending background investigation, background check, and physical.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Chair, I move to approve a step 4 increase for David Weber effective 2/24/24 to $24.66 per hour.
It's a lot of 24s. I second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It is.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve Cemetery Department to approve PO North Coast Memorials in the amount of $49,500 to purchase 3 columbariums.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and moving on to future meetings and announcements, Mr. Technic, please.
Yes, on March 4th at 3 p.m., a staff meeting will be held at Town Hall. On March 5th at 7 p.m., a zoning commission meeting will be held at Town Hall. On March 6th, from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m., trustee office hours will be held at Town Hall in the conference room. And following that, there will be a 7:30 p.m. will be a trustee meeting at Town Hall. And finally, at March 15th at 8 a.m., a JED meeting will be held at Town Hall.
All right, and that concludes our Township Trustee meeting this evening. Good evening, Concord Township, and thank you.